Stay tuned to learn about two dudes who over 1,000 years ago tried to fly, what went wrong, and since both came to the same conclusion about why it didn't work, maybe it's the same story. This is Lowiki Journeys, just neat stuff I found while reading Wikipedia. I had to take a flight a few weeks ago, and so naturally I looked up aviation on Wikipedia, but didn't get very far before finding some bizarre stories from the Dark Ages. After going through the basic definition and telling us aviation itself began in the 1700s, along with where the word came from, France, we get this intriguing early beginnings section. Now, it doesn't mention the Hindu flying chariots known as Vimana, nor God's Merkabah, which is described as a mobile throne chariot and the title of a lesser-known Tool song, but it does talk about myths such as Icarus and the flying throne of Caycavis. And then you get Archetas from 400 BC who makes a wooden dove. You can also click the full history of aviation article to see other man-made flying objects like kites, bamboo copters, and sky lanterns. But before the late 1400s, when Leonard da Vinci sketched plans for both aerial screws and an ornithopter, there are two stories about people themselves attempting to fly, and they are conspicuously similar. The Wikipedia page also describes the tales as somewhat more credible than the fables and myths. So there's that. The earliest account comes from an English monk/historian from the early 1100s who recounts a tale about another monk named Eilmer, who was an old man in 1066 but attempted to fly in his youth. Here's the passage.
He had by some means, I scarcely know what, fastened wings to his hands and feet so that, mistaking fable for truth, he might fly like Daedalus, and, collecting the breeze upon the summit of a tower, flew for more than a furlong, 201 meters, or 659.5 feet. But agitated by the violence of the wind and the swirling of air, as well as by the awareness of his rash attempt, he fell, broke both his legs, and was lame ever after. He used to relate as the cause of his failure, his forgetting to provide himself a tail.
This is the only known historic passage about old Eilmer, and I guess breaking his legs permanently didn't inspire any other monks to try again, with a tail or otherwise. The next account comes from Ahmed Mohammed al-Makhari. He was a Spanish historian in the 1600s that wrote about a similar situation that supposedly took place in the 800s, about 200 years before Brother Eilmer's attempt. So this inventor, astronomer, and poet named Abbas ibn Firnas also jumped from a building and blamed his failures on not including a tail in his design.
Among other very curious experiments which he made, one is his trying to fly. He covered himself with feathers for the purpose, attached a couple of wings to his body, and getting on an eminence, flung himself down into the air, when according to the testimony of several trustworthy writers who witnessed the performance, he flew a considerable distance as if he had been a bird. But, in alighting again on the place whence he had started, his back was very much hurt, for not knowing that birds when they alight come down upon their tails, he forgot to provide himself with one.
I like that it just says his back was very much hurt. Like, was he paralyzed? Did he break anything? Was he lame for the rest of his life, like Eilmer? Then world may never know. And as a side note, in case you were wondering, eminence is a fancy word for hill here, and to alight is to land after flying. A poem from the year 886 mentions the flight.
He flew faster than the phoenix in his flight, when he dressed his body in the feathers of a vulture.
There's not much else to be found in the historical record. But in a nutshell, both of these guys made themselves wings with feathers, jumped from a tall surface, and got hurt. Eilmer, who appears to have gone in a straight line, had permanent injuries as a result, whereas Firnas managed to fly in a circle, crashing back down near where he originally took flight. As both thought their design flaw was not including a tail, you would think there would be some record of someone re-attempting flight, but with the tail included in the design. But no other record exists. So what I take away from all this is that at some point someone tried to jump off a tower, an activity known aptly as tower jumping, and got fucked up. Maybe it happened to both of these guys. Maybe the Eilmer story was just a retold version of the Firnas story with local English names. Maybe it was just a story people told back then to discourage daredevils from attempting to jump from high places. But that was the way of thinking up until the 1700s, I guess. If we want to fly, we better dress like a bird. And though it may appear initially, the moral of the story is if you're going to dress like a bird and fly, don't forget to include a tail, but no such tail exists. Thanks for watching, everybody. This was the premiere of Lowiki Journeys, a new show on the Leonov channel, and now the 4th show in the channel's lineup. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss upcoming poetry, stories, jams, and new journeys.